The last stand of Varellus Prime. The twin suns of Varellus Prime cast long shadows across the crystalline spires of the capital city. Commander Thalen stood on the observation deck of the planetary defense station, watching the evacuation ships rise into the darkening sky. His species, the Varelians, had called this world home for 60,000 years. Now they had less than 6 hours before the Krathan Dominion arrived to claim it. The Krathan were unstoppable. Everyone in the galaxy knew this. For 4 centuries, they had swept across star systems like a plague, consuming everything in their path. Their empire stretched across 12,000 worlds, each one stripped of resources and left as a barren husk. The Krathan did not negotiate. They did not take prisoners. They simply conquered and moved on. Commander Thalen's communication device chirped. It was General Marvek from the surface. Commander, the last civilian transport has just departed. Only military personnel remain. We estimate 3 million soldiers still on the ground. 3 million against the Krathan armada. Thalen almost laughed at the absurdity of it. The Krathan would bring 10 times that number, maybe more. But the Varelians would fight anyway. They had to. If they could delay the enemy even for a few days, the civilian ships might reach the neutral zones where other species could offer refuge. Understood, General, Thalen replied. All defense platforms are at full power. We will make them remember this world. As he ended the transmission, his tactical officer called out. Commander, we are detecting massive energy signatures at the system's edge. The Krathan fleet is arriving. Thalen moved to the main display screen. The sight made his blood run cold. Hundreds of ships materialized from faster-than-light travel, their black hulls absorbing the light of the twin suns. These were the vessels of conquest, designed for one purpose, overwhelming force. The Krathan flagship was enormous, a mountain of metal and weapons that dwarfed even the largest Varelian battleship. Its commander, war leader Zathos, was infamous throughout the galaxy. He had personally overseen the destruction of 47 civilizations. Varellus Prime would be number 48. All stations, this is Commander Thalen, he announced across the fleet-wide channel. The enemy has arrived. Remember, we fight not for victory but for time. Every minute we hold them is another minute our families move farther from danger. Fight with honor. Fight with courage. Make them pay for every meter of space. The Varelian fleet consisted of 200 warships, old vessels that had been designed for patrol and peacekeeping, not full-scale war. But their crews were determined. They formed defensive formations around the planet, preparing for the inevitable assault. The Krathan did not waste time with communications or demands for surrender. They simply attacked. Their weapons tore through space with devastating efficiency. The first wave of Varelian ships exploded within minutes, their shields overwhelmed by the sheer firepower directed at them. Thalen gripped the railing as his station shook from nearby impacts. Return fire. All batteries, concentrate on their lead destroyers. The battle became chaos. Ships exploded on both sides, filling the void with debris and expanding clouds of superheated gas. The Varelians fought with desperate courage, using tactics and maneuvers they had never tested in actual combat. They rammed damaged ships into Krathan vessels. They detonated power cores near enemy formations. They fought like cornered animals because that was exactly what they were. But courage was not enough. Within 2 hours, half the Varelian fleet was destroyed. The Krathan pressed forward, beginning their bombardment of the planet's surface. Cities that had stood for millennia vanished in flashes of white fire. The defense platforms fired until their weapon systems melted from overuse, then were destroyed by focused Krathan attacks. Commander Thalen's station took a direct hit. The bridge filled with smoke and sparks. Warning alarms shrieked as hull breaches opened in 3 sections. Seal those compartments, he shouted over the noise. Keep firing until we have nothing left to fire with. His weapons officer looked up from her console, her face streaked with blood from a head wound. "Commander, we are detecting something unusual. There is a new contact entering the system. It is moving at incredible speed." Thalen pulled himself to the tactical display. A single ship signature appeared on the edge of the system, accelerating toward the battle at velocities that should have been impossible. "Can you identify it? Is it another Krathen vessel?" "Negative, Commander. The energy signature does not match any known species in our database. It is broadcasting a signal on all frequencies." "What does it say?" The communications officer adjusted his damaged equipment. "It is repeating a single message in multiple languages. It says, 'This is the Terran Defense Force. Any hostile forces are ordered to cease combat operations immediately or face destruction.'" Thalen stared at the display in confusion. "Terran? I have never heard of that species. How can one ship make such a demand against the entire Krathen fleet?" As if in answer, the unknown vessel decelerated in the heart of the battlefield. Now that it was closer, sensors could get better readings. The ship was approximately 800 meters long, sleek and angular with a dark hull that seemed to absorb scanner beams. It was small compared to Krathen warships, yet it moved with a confidence that suggested it feared nothing. War leader Zathos apparently noticed the newcomer as well. 3 Krathen destroyers broke formation and moved to intercept. Each destroyer was twice the size of the strange vessel and carried enough firepower to level a small moon. What happened next defied belief. The Terran ship did not retreat. It accelerated directly toward the approaching destroyers. At the last possible moment, it released a volley of projectiles that moved faster than any missile Thalen had ever seen. The projectiles struck the first destroyer's shields and passed through them as if they were not there. The destroyer exploded from the inside, torn apart by weapons that ignored conventional defenses. The second destroyer managed to fire its main cannon. The beam struck the Terran vessel directly. For a moment, Thalen thought the strange ship was finished. But when the energy dissipated, the vessel was still there, its hull glowing but intact. It returned fire with a different weapon, a focused beam of pure white energy that cut through the destroyer's armor like a blade through paper. The third destroyer attempted to flee. It did not make it far. The Terran ship launched what appeared to be a single missile. When it reached the destroyer, it did not explode. Instead, it simply passed through the ship from bow to stern, leaving a perfectly circular hole. The destroyer drifted for a moment, then broke apart as internal explosions consumed it. 3 destroyers destroyed in less than 2 minutes. The remaining Krathen fleet paused, uncertainty rippling through their formations for the first time in 4 centuries. The Terran ship positioned itself between the Krathen armada and the surviving Virelian vessels. Its message broadcast again, but this time with additional information. "I am Captain Sarah Chen of the TDF Valkyrie. You have attacked a sovereign world without provocation. You have 30 seconds to withdraw your forces or I will consider this an act of war against the Terran Republic." Thalen could hardly believe what he was witnessing. One ship, one captain, challenging the most feared military force in the galaxy. It was either incredible bravery or complete insanity. War leader Zathos evidently chose to interpret it as insanity. The entire Krathen fleet opened fire simultaneously. Hundreds of energy beams and thousands of missiles converged on the Valkyrie. The Terran ship accelerated. It moved through the incoming fire with impossible precision, dodging some attacks while its shields absorbed others. Its weapons fired continuously, each shot finding a target. Krathen ships began exploding, one after another, in a cascade of destruction that lit up the system like a new sun. But the Valkyrie was just one ship. Even with its superior technology, it could not be everywhere at once. A Krathen cruiser managed to get behind it and fired a weapon that released a wave of electromagnetic energy designed to disable all electronic systems. The Terran ship's lights flickered. Its weapon ceased firing. For a moment, it drifted helplessly. The Krathen fleet moved in for the kill. 20 warships surrounded the disabled vessel, preparing to destroy it utterly. Then the Valkyrie's engines roared back to life. The ship spun in place and released a spherical burst of energy that expanded outward in all directions. Every Krathan ship caught in the blast simply ceased to exist, disintegrated down to their component atoms. Captain Chen's voice came over the communication channel again, and this time there was steel in her words. I warned you. Now you will learn why humanity does not make threats we cannot back up. The Valkyrie tore through the Krathan fleet like an avenging angel. Its weapons seemed endless in variety. Kinetic projectiles, energy beams, missiles, electromagnetic pulses, and devices that Thalen could not even identify. Each weapon was used with surgical precision against targets that had no defense against them. The Krathan tried to adapt. They concentrated their fire. They attempted boarding actions. They even tried to ram the Terran ship with damaged vessels. Nothing worked. The Valkyrie moved through their formations like a dancer, always one step ahead, always finding the perfect angle of attack. Within an hour, half the Krathan fleet was destroyed. The remainder broke formation and began retreating toward the system's edge. War leader Zathos's flagship was among the fleeing vessels, its proud commander apparently deciding that discretion was the better part of valor when facing an enemy he could not defeat. The Valkyrie did not pursue. Instead, it returned to the orbital space around Varellus Prime, positioning itself among the battered remnants of the Varelian defense fleet. Commander Thalen received a direct communication request. He accepted it with trembling hands. A human face appeared on his screen. Captain Chen was younger than he expected, with dark eyes that held depths of experience beyond her apparent years. Commander Thalen, I apologize for arriving so late. We detected the Krathan fleet movements and came as fast as we could. How can we assist with your casualties and damage repair? Thalen found himself speechless. This human, this representative of a species he had never heard of before today, had just single-handedly defeated the most powerful military force in known space. And now she was asking how she could help. Captain Chen, he finally managed to say, who are you? Where did your people come from? How do you possess such incredible technology? The human's expression grew somber. That is a long story, Commander. One that begins with humanity's first and only encounter with the Krathan Dominion, 20 years ago. They came to our home system. They destroyed our colonies. They killed billions of our people. But you survived, Thalen said. We survived, Captain Chen confirmed. And we learned. We spent 2 decades preparing for the day we would return to this part of the galaxy. We developed new technologies. We built a fleet. And we made ourselves a promise, never again would humanity stand helpless while innocent people were slaughtered. She leaned forward, her gaze intense. The Krathan Dominion has ruled through fear for 4 centuries. They believe they are unstoppable. Today, they learned otherwise. And soon, the entire galaxy will know, humanity has returned, and we will not permit tyranny to continue unchallenged. Commander Thalen felt something stir in his chest that he had not felt in years. It was hope. Fragile, uncertain hope, but hope nonetheless. What happens now? He asked. Captain Chen smiled. Now, Commander, you contact your civilian fleet and tell them they can come home. Tell them that Varellus Prime is safe. And then, if you are willing, we would like to discuss an alliance. Because humanity did not cross the void between stars just to save one world. We came to free the entire galaxy. As Thalen looked at the damaged Krathan vessels fleeing into the darkness, he realized that everything had changed in a single day. The age of Krathan dominance was ending. A new age was beginning, one where humanity would stand as guardians of those who could not protect themselves. The galaxy would never be the same. The Council of Survivors. The message from Varellus Prime spread across the galaxy at the speed of light. Within days, every civilization in the known regions had heard the impossible tale, a single human ship had defeated a Krathan armada. At first, most dismissed it as propaganda or desperate fiction. The Krathan Dominion had crushed every military force it had encountered for 400 years. No species had ever achieved victory against them in open battle. But then came the evidence. Sensor recordings from Varelian observation posts. Testimonies from thousands of witnesses. Even captured Krathan escape pods whose occupants told stories of terror and defeat. Slowly, the galaxy began to believe the impossible truth. On the remote station known as Haven's Reach, the last refuge of the Galactic Coordination Committee, emergency sessions were called. The committee had once been a powerful organization representing 700 species. Now only 23 delegates remained, representing the survivors of worlds that had managed to escape total annihilation. Ambassador Kelrus of the Varelians addressed the assembled delegates. His crystalline body pulsed with barely contained emotion as he projected holographic images of the battle. I witnessed this with my own eyes. The human ship moved with speed and precision we have never seen. Their weapons penetrated Krathan shields as if they were nothing. One vessel destroyed over 100 enemy warships. Impossible, declared Ambassador Thorol, a massive creature whose species had survived by hiding in the deep asteroid fields. No civilization possesses such technology. You must have misinterpreted what you saw. I have provided complete sensor data, Kelrus responded. Examine it yourselves. The truth is undeniable. Humanity has returned to this galaxy, and they possess capabilities that surpass anything we have ever encountered. Elder Mystara, the ancient representative of the Luminar, raised one of her translucent appendages for attention. The Luminar were among the oldest species in the galaxy, their civilization dating back millions of years. When she spoke, her voice carried the weight of accumulated wisdom. This committee remembers humanity. 20 years ago, they were newcomers to galactic society. Young, curious, sometimes brash, but fundamentally peaceful. They controlled only 3 star systems and perhaps 50 worlds. Then the Krathan came. The chamber fell silent. Everyone knew what had happened next. The Krathan destroyed humanity's primary world, Mystara continued. Earth was its name. Billions died. Their colonies were attacked, their fleets annihilated. We believed humanity was extinct, another species erased from existence. This committee voted to memorialize them in our records of fallen civilizations. But it appears we were premature in that assessment. Where have they been for 20 years, asked Representative Colden of the Meridian Collective. How did they develop such advanced technology in such a short time? Perhaps they were not as primitive as we believed, suggested Ambassador Kelrus. Captain Chen told me they spent 2 decades preparing. They built their strength in secret, away from the Krathan's attention. And now they have emerged precisely when we need them most, said Mystara. Some might call that fate. Others might call it calculated strategy. The discussion continued for hours. Some delegates were suspicious of humanity's sudden appearance and overwhelming power. Others saw them as potential saviors. A few questioned whether trading Krathan dominance for human dominance would be an improvement. Finally, Ambassador Thorol raised the question everyone was thinking: what do the humans want? Why did they come back? A single ship cannot liberate the entire galaxy, no matter how advanced. As if summoned by that question, the station's communication systems activated. A priority signal was being broadcast on all frequencies. The committee members looked at each other in surprise. This communication channel was supposed to be secret, known only to the few surviving free civilizations. A human face appeared on the main display. It was not Captain Chen, but an older man with gray hair and eyes that held both sorrow and determination. I am Admiral James Harrison of the Terran Defense Force. I apologize for the intrusion, but we need to speak with your leadership immediately. The situation is more urgent than you realize. Elder Mystara recovered from her surprise first. Admiral Harrison, I am Elder Mystara of the Galactic Coordination Committee. How did you locate this station? Our position is classified at the highest levels. We have been monitoring Krathan communications for years, Harrison replied. We know where they go, what they attack, and most importantly, what they fear. When we intercepted messages about this station, we knew we had found the survivors' leadership. We mean you no harm. We come seeking alliance. One ship, Thorol said bluntly. You sent one ship to fight the Kraken. Is that the extent of your forces? Harrison's expression remained neutral. The Valkyrie was a reconnaissance vessel. Its mission was to assess Kraken's strength and capabilities. Captain Chen exceeded her orders when she engaged the enemy, but I cannot fault her results. She saved countless lives on Varellus Prime. You did not answer my question, Admiral, Thorol pressed. How many ships do you have? Enough, Harrison said simply. But this is not a conversation for open channels. I would like to request permission to dock at your station. I will come with minimal crew, unarmed if necessary. We have much to discuss, and time is not on our side. The committee delegates looked at each other. This was unprecedented. A species with demonstrated military superiority was asking for permission to meet, rather than simply demanding it. That alone spoke volumes about humanity's intentions. You may dock, Mystara decided. Bay 7 will be cleared for your arrival. But know this, Admiral, we have monitoring systems throughout this station. Any sign of treachery, and you will not leave alive. Harrison smiled faintly. Understood, Elder. I would expect nothing less. We will arrive in 2 hours. The transmission ended. The committee chamber erupted in debate. Some called for immediate evacuation, certain this was a trap. Others argued for giving the humans a chance. In the end, Mystara's authority carried the decision. They would meet with the humans. 2 hours later, Admiral Harrison's shuttle docked precisely on schedule. He emerged with only 3 companions, a younger officer carrying data storage devices, a scientist with measurement equipment, and a marine in light armor who served as bodyguard. All were clearly visible and clearly unarmed beyond the marine's sidearm. The committee received them in a large conference chamber designed to accommodate various species' environmental needs. Harrison bowed respectfully to the assembled delegates before taking his seat. Thank you for agreeing to meet with us. I understand the risk you are taking. Tell us, Admiral, Mystara began without preamble, what does humanity want? Justice, Harrison replied simply. 20 years ago, the Kraken came to our home system without warning or declaration. They destroyed our primary world. They killed 8 billion humans. They attempted to exterminate our entire species simply because we existed in their path of expansion. His voice remained steady, but the pain in his eyes was clear. We were unprepared. We were naive. We believed that being part of galactic civilization offered some protection, that the Coordination Committee would intervene to stop genocide. We were wrong on all counts. Several delegates shifted uncomfortably. They had failed humanity, and everyone knew it. We do not blame you, Harrison continued. By the time you knew what was happening, it was too late. The Kraken move quickly. That is their strength. But we learned from that failure. We rebuilt in secret. We developed new technologies using theories that our scientists had considered impossible. We created weapons that could challenge the Kraken. And we prepared for this day. One ship, Thorol repeated. You keep avoiding my question. What is the true size of your fleet? Harrison nodded to his science officer, who activated a holographic projection. The display showed a star system the delegates did not recognize. Orbiting a yellow sun were 17 planets and hundreds of moons. And around those worlds floated a fleet of warships that numbered in the thousands. This is our primary military base, Harrison explained. These ships were built in secret over 20 years. Each vessel incorporates technology that gives us advantages in speed, weapons, shields, and stealth. We have larger ships than the Valkyrie. We have specialized vessels for specific combat roles. And we have something else, something the Krathen cannot match. What is that? Asked Kelris. Determination born from loss, Harrison said quietly. Every human remembers what happened to Earth. Every human has lost someone to the Krathen. We are not fighting for territory or resources. We are fighting to ensure that what happened to us never happens to anyone else. He leaned forward. But we cannot do this alone. We are one species. The Krathen control thousands of worlds. They have resources we cannot match. If we attack them directly, we might win some battles, but eventually their numbers will overwhelm us. We need allies. We need intelligence about their positions and strategies. We need the cooperation of species who know this galaxy far better than we do. In exchange for what? Thoril asked suspiciously. What does humanity expect in return for this assistance? Nothing, Harrison said. No tribute, no territory, no political concessions. We ask only that when the fighting is done, you remember that humanity kept its word. That we came when others needed us. The chamber fell silent as delegates processed this unprecedented offer. Finally, Elder Mistara spoke. You understand that this war will cost millions of lives, both human and otherwise? That victory is far from guaranteed? We understand, Harrison confirmed. But the alternative is to do nothing while the Krathen continue their expansion. How many more species must be exterminated before someone says, enough? Pretty words, Thoril grumbled. But how do we know you are not simply positioning yourselves to replace the Krathen as the galaxy's masters? Harrison's younger officer, who had been silent until now, spoke up with clear frustration. With respect, Ambassador, that is exactly the kind of thinking that allowed the Krathen to grow so powerful. Everyone was afraid to act because they feared creating a different problem. Meanwhile, civilization after civilization died. Lieutenant, Harrison warned, but the young officer continued. We lost our home. We lost our families. We spent 20 years building the means to fight back, not to conquer, but to protect. If you cannot see the difference between our intentions and the Krathen's, then perhaps you deserve to remain their victims. Lieutenant Chen, Harrison said sharply. Stand down. The committee members stared at the young officer. Kelris suddenly understood. Chen. Are you related to Captain Sarah Chen of the Valkyrie? The lieutenant met his gaze steadily. She is my sister. She was on a colony world when the Krathen attacked Earth. She watched from orbit as our mother and father died in the bombardment. That is why she fights. That is why we all fight. The emotional weight of that confession hung in the air. These were not conquerors. They were survivors seeking to ensure others did not share their fate. Elder Mistara made a decision. Admiral Harrison, on behalf of the Galactic Coordination Committee, I accept your offer of alliance. We will provide you with all intelligence we have on Krathen positions, strategies, and capabilities. We will coordinate military operations and share resources. And in return, we ask only that humanity remember, freedom is not given, it is taken and then vigilantly protected. Harrison stood and bowed deeply. You have our word, Elder. Humanity remembers its debts. Over the following hours, the committee and the human delegation worked out the details of their alliance. Maps were shared, showing the full extent of Krathen conquests. Intelligence reports detailed their military structure, manufacturing capabilities, and supply lines. Humanity provided technical specifications for their weapons and defensive systems, offerings to help other species upgrade their meager remaining fleets. As the meeting concluded, Ambassador Kelris approached Lieutenant Chen. Your sister is remarkable. She inspired hope in people who had forgotten what hope felt like. Chen smiled sadly. She would say she was just doing her job. Humans are good at that, persisting when logic says we should give up. Perhaps that is what this galaxy needs, Kelris observed. Species who refuse to accept defeat. Perhaps, Chen agreed. But persistence alone won't win this war. We need coordination, strategy, and most importantly, we need every free species to stand together. The Krathen conquered the galaxy by dividing their enemies. We will defeat them by uniting ours. As the human delegation prepared to depart, Admiral Harrison issued one final statement to the committee. Within 3 days, the Terran Defense Force will launch coordinated strikes against 12 Krathen positions simultaneously. These attacks will target supply depots, communication arrays, and isolated garrison fleets. We will show the galaxy that the Krathen can be beaten. We will give hope to species who have none. And we will begin the liberation of this galaxy, one world at a time. May fortune favor your efforts, Mystara said. Fortune favors the prepared, Harrison replied. And humanity has spent 20 years preparing for this moment. As the human shuttle departed Haven's Reach, the delegates watched it go with a mixture of hope and fear. They were committing to a war that could destroy what little remained of galactic civilization. But they were also choosing to fight rather than merely survive. For the first time in 400 years, the Krathen Dominion faced an enemy that was not afraid. And across the galaxy, in hidden colonies and refugee fleets, word began to spread: humanity had returned, and the tide was about to turn.